Footprints and Function by Chastity Luckett, Madison Hallmark, and Michaela LeVake. Our presentation is about the different feet forms and their function for the different taxa. First, we'll look at amphibians. More specifically, we'll analyze some frog, toad, and salamander feet. On the top left is the African dwarf frog, and on the bottom right is the giant Japanese salamander's foot. These feet both have webbing, which lets you know they belong to primarily aquatic species. However, you will notice that the frog has much larger feet and legs. This is due to the fact that they can also walk on land and will propel themselves through the air with their strong, powerful legs. However, you will notice that the little salamander has short, stubby legs. This is because they will mainly crawl along the bottom of the rivers or use their tail for propulsion. On the upper left is the red-eyed tree frog. You may have noticed that the tips of their feet have bulbs. These tips have hexagon-shaped pattern that, when they touch the surface, the crevices release mucus to cover the pads, allowing them to stick to a variety of surfaces. This will let them climb high up into the trees and stick to the wet rainforest leaves. In the top right is the gliding tree frog. This frog adapts to use its very thin webbing and long, thin fingers to act like mini parachutes when jumping down from the high up in the canopies. They mainly do this when needing to rapidly come down to find a mate. In the top left is a fire salamander. The difference between this salamander and the one from earlier is that it has very little to no webbing on its foot. This is because it is primarily on land, where it climbs trees and digs in the ground to find meals. On the right is the spadefoot toad, a fellow land dweller. The toad actually retained their webbing while adapting to life primarily on land. Why, you may ask? Well, they developed a different way to thrive on land. A claw-like spade made of keratin that they use to dig burrows in the ground to hibernate until the rainy seasons arrive. The next taxa we will look at is reptiles, specifically lizards, crocodilia, and testudines. On the left are some gecko feet. Geckos have special skin on their feet with thousands of setae. At the ends of those setae are speculae. These increase the surface area they are touching, thus increasing the number of electrons from the gecko and the surface that are interacting, which thus makes something called van der Waals forces stronger, which allows them to climb a variety of surfaces unencumbered, as long as there's nothing like water in between. In the middle is the tortoise foot. This foot is thick, short, and flat with rough, dry skin due to the tortoise only living on land. It is incapable of swimming due to its large, heavy shell, which is also the reason for its flat footing. They need these flat feet to be able to support the extreme weight of the shell as they travel long, slow distances in search of food and mates. On the right is an alligator for them. As you can see, they have webbing for swimming similar to the salamander and frogs. The big difference is their sharp claws, which most reptiles possess. They use these claws to dig nests for their eggs to incubate in, as well as to quickly rush out of the slick riverbed surface to charge at their prey.
Our next taxa is going to be birds. So bird feet have a variety of functions depending on where the bird lives and what it eats. There are many different types of styles for different functions, but here are some of the most common feet associated with a particular function. First, we have the scratching function. These feet are going to have 3 toes in the front and 1 in the back, with shorter nails, such as in chickens. Next, we have feet that function in climbing. They have 2 toes in the front and 2 toes in the back, and they're going to be smaller in size but with larger claws. These feet belong to woodpeckers. Running feet are going to be a little different as they are much larger in size with thicker claws, such as in the emu. Next are feet that are used for swimming. Swimming feet are going to be webbed between the toes. The webbing is also important for walking on muddy surfaces, which is really important for the duck. Lastly, we have prey birds that are used their feet to hunt. These feet are going to have 3 toes in the front and 1 in the back, but they're going to have really large talons or claws in order to grasp their prey, like in the owl. Now that you know a little bit about birds' feet and what some of the functions are, what type of bird do you think this foot belongs to? And what do you think its primary function is? Did you say the ostrich in running? If so, you would be correct.
Mammals are going to be the next taxa that we're going to talk about. Paws are a layer of cartilage and tissue that are located at the bottom of some mammal feet. This serves as a cushion for animal weight and when they are moving. There are also a few other functions for this design that are going to be more specified for the lifestyle and habitat of each individual. Felines have paws more adapted for pouncing and climbing. as their paw pads can absorb shock when landing, which will lessen the impact on their joints. Their retractable claws also create a better grip for when climbing and catching prey. Canine paws, as we have a wolf right here in the middle, have some of the same qualities as felines, as their pads can absorb shock, but the main adaptation for them is for longer running. The structure of their nails are going to be more suited for digging as well. Looking at the moles, we can see these creatures have longer nail extensions and extremely rough paw pads these are made for easier digging. Elephants over here have flat feet and a large paw pad on the bottom. This works to absorb more shock and will help them walk quietly, as it is important as they walk for long periods of time. In mammals such as raccoons and possums, they have more dexterity to their paws than in other animals. These organisms are able to actively control their fingers and make specific grabbing motions. This helps them manipulate their food and also climb. Even bears have some dexterity to their paws, but they are less flexible than some of these organisms, such as monkeys and mice. Hoofs provide greater support for the animal's body weight. It gives the organism the ecological advantage of faster running for longer periods of time. Horse are going to be mammals with only one toe. This adaptation supports their long-term running on flat terrain. In other hoof mammals, such as deer, there are going to be two toes present on the foot. This allows for greater grip when walking on rocky surfaces and inclines. Alright, so we put together a little matching game where we are going to show a mammal's foot and you're going to match it with the best performed function. So the first organism we're going to have is going to be a goat. And we can give you a little time, pause the video if you need to, and match it to the best function listed. Alright, and the answer for this one is going to be walking on rocky surfaces. The next organism we have here is going to be a crocodile. Right, and the answer for this one is going to be swimming. The next organism we have is going to be a salamander. And their best performed function is going to be climbing. Right, and now we have the foot of a chicken. And they are going to be best at scratching on the ground. And lastly, we have the hands or feet of a lemur. And their best performed function is going to be grasping objects.